Hello and welcome to the Capital Area Theater Show. I am your host, Jeremy Patterson, and with me today is local actress, comedian, educator, Alexis Campbell. Hello, Alexis.
Hi.
How you doing?
Great.
Thank you so much for sitting down.
Yeah, of course.
So, we're here to talk about Merry Wives of Windsor, but before we get into that, I was wondering if you'd give our listeners a little bit of your history and background.
Okay. Well, I live here in Harrisburg, and for my day job, I work for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and in the rest of my life, I'm an actor. So I started out as a Gamut Core Company member back in the early aughts
Okay.
when I was in my 20s, and then I moved on to the Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art, where I was their programming director for a couple of years, and then to PennDOT just in February. But I've remained as active as I could in local theater throughout those years. And so I've worked, I guess, primarily at Gamut Theater and Harrisburg Shakespeare Company, but I've done a couple of things at Open Stage and other places as they've popped up. And yeah, I went to school for theater, and so it's nice to be able to use that.
Yeah.
Even if it is just like on this quote on the side or on my own terms, but I enjoy that aspect of it. So
Okay, so you said you went to school for theater.
yeah.
How did you get to that point of deciding that's what you wanted to study past elementary and high school?
Well, I guess I just always was passionate about it. I was always really comfortable in front of people, even as a kid. Like,
Okay.
I remember enjoying performing for as long as I can remember. And so as soon as there was a way for me to do that in an organized manner, I remember that I did my first community theater show was Bye Bye Birdie when I was in 8th grade at the Lebanon Community Theater.
Okay.
And I was in the teen chorus, and I'm a really bad dancer. I am not good. I'm not just being self-deprecating. It is a fact.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I can learn it eventually, but it's not a natural talent that I have. And so I just remember being so passionate and excited, but being I can't dance, and loving to sing. And then when I learned that there are some musicals that you don't have to dance,
Yeah.
that was a great discovery. And then once I got into high school, I started doing more, doing straight plays and stuff. And I don't know, I think the performance aspect of it was always intriguing, just sort of at a very base level, and I think it was not anything that I could really put my finger on. I just knew this is the thing I enjoy doing. But then as I got older, there was this element of community and teamwork and ensemble and friendships and connections, all those things that go along with doing a show that are that are an important part of it, and a group of people getting together and doing a thing, and it's magical. And so that's always been an exciting aspect of it too for me. And I guess that's what's kept me going, even though, I have a kid and she's 3.5 now, so now it's starting to get a little easier, but there were a couple of years there where she was a baby and a toddler where it was just not possible. So it's fun to get back into it, because I did miss that sort of aspect of myself and getting to do something that was mine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said you went to Lebanon High School?
I went to Cedar Crest High School, which is in Lebanon.
Cedar Crest High
Yes.
School, which is in Lebanon. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask this is because, knowing a bit of your history, you said you did plays, but I know that you've done musicals. So you did both things that were offered at your school, or was it something that they alternated years?
No, actually, for a public high school in Lebanon County, they had a fair amount of... It was a big school. There was, a lot of students, and so they had a fair amount of things offered, and I think they probably have more now. But yeah, we had a fall play, a winter play, and a spring musical.
Okay.
And then obviously like chorus and everything. But yeah, so I did everything I could all the
And
time.
you were just flat out supported for everything.
Yeah. And there were, I mean, I remember the one cool thing about my high school was that they didn't do, I don't know, stereotypical like high school plays. Like we did All My Sons and Tennessee Williams, Summer and Smoke, and like plays,
Yeah.
actual plays. And that was really cool. And I remember my theater teacher in high school, like being quoted in the yearbook. They did this like spread on Summer and Smoke or something. And she said, like, I do plays with high school students. I don't do high school plays.
Oh, wow.
And I found that, I still remember that because it was cool to be trusted with that material even that young. And even though I didn't really understand what a big deal that was, like, it felt good to even be challenged as a 15-year-old, to do a Tennessee Williams play. And I know other places do it's not like they invented doing it, but that was really cool to get exposed to that stuff so young. I went to a really small college, like Homan College in Williamsport, so it's a little liberal arts school.
That's my dad went.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, if you ask him, he will tell you he majored in sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Oh. That's a popular major. But and it's a tiny school, a small program, but the cool thing about it was that like we did a bajillion shows a year.
Okay.
Not literally, but there were tons. And so there were plenty of opportunities to like get on stage and do it. And so I feel like a lot of my like education, quote unquote, in theater has been just from doing it.
Okay.
Like, and that's been cool.
Yeah.
to have that. So yeah.
So in high school, you're being exposed to things like Tennessee Williams and these other great plays and the like. I'm wondering if you remember, if you could highlight some of those shows, because it seems, and this is just from the people in my life, our high school did as many professional musicals, but they did the generic plays that don't have a famous title or famous premise. And I think that probably discouraged a lot of people who had a lot of talent from stepping out and stepping up. And for you to say, it was so nice to be exposed to that material, I was wondering if you could walk us through some of those roles that, along with the feeling of community, put it more in your hands.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, my first lead role of my life was in 10th grade when we did Tennessee Williams' play Summer and Smoke, which is a great play and one that I don't see being produced very often, but it's so good. And it's about this woman who's sort of spinsterish in the South, and she's in love with her neighbor who is a doctor, and he's sort of a cad, and she's a very tightly wound woman and a preacher's daughter and very proper, and he's this wild man, and she's desperately in love with him, and he sort of leads her on, and it's very sad because she falls for him and she gets, dropped, and it's a beautiful story, and it's beautifully written, obviously, and I remember it was really challenging, just I was a big part of it. It was a lot of lines, all that kind of stuff. But I remember the emotional challenges that were required. And for a 15-year-old girl who is a theater kid and has, insecure like everyone is in high school, there was a certain vulnerability that everyone was dealing with at that time, but that I guess in the process of performing, you're asked to be vulnerable in ways, and being challenged like that as a kid just was really significant for me. And so that was a huge thing. And one funny thing that happened is we did Guys and Dolls my junior year, and I played Sarah Brown, and I broke my tooth kissing Sky Masterson in a dress rehearsal and had to be like rushed to the dentist to get a fake tooth. And so that was like embarrassing, and I never like no one ever let me live that down. But I don't know, those are like that stuck out in my memory too. But yeah, we did Lend Me a Tenor, and are you familiar with that play? It's like
Yeah, it's the Othello.
yeah, like the Ken Ludwig, like the farce, and that was really fun. So that was like a introduction to that sort of like fast-paced farce, door slamming, that kind of stuff. And so it was neat to be able to experience those things so young, I guess. But definitely like Summer and Smoke I will always remember it. And that's something I would love to like come back to that as an adult.
Okay.
Like now that having lived some life, like what different, like how different would that be? Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so you're at Lycoming and you're doing a bajillion shows. What are some of the shows that you do there that push you on into, because like you said, you did this professionally. What were some experiences you had at school, or if you have like a moment with a teacher or a production that was the next stepping stone for you, maybe?
We did a lot of weird stuff. I don't know. We did a play called Crimes of the Heart. It's sort of like this, it has kind of a Steel Magnolias vibe
Okay.
to it. It's about 4 sisters, and that was great. And
Wait, that's by Beth?
Beth Henley. Or no.
No, it's Beth something.
Beth something.
Because she's
look it up.
I know this because she was married to Stephen Tobolowsky.
Oh.
And he tells a long story about that on his podcast.
I'm going to Google it. Crimes of the Heart. Beth Henley.
Beth Henley, okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, and it was a black comedy, so that was sort of challenging and fun. And we did a play called Fortinbras, which we never did any Shakespeare when I was there. It just sort of was like in the 4-year span that I was there, it just didn't happen.
Okay.
And so, but I always loved Shakespeare, and I was never in a Shakespeare show until like my first professional show with Gamut. But I always loved it, and like had this, I don't know, it sounds so stupid, but I just felt this connection to it. And but we did these plays called Fortinbras and I Hate Hamlet, like these sort of plays that are sort of around Shakespeare productions or themes. And so I sort of got to like dip my toes in that water a little bit, and it just was like, I want to do this for real. And then like the following year after I graduated from high school or from college, I did Much Ado About Nothing. I was 23. This is my first Park show in 2003. And we actually, like right now, for the folks at home, we're like in this fountain in Reservoir Park, this fountain area. We're not in the fountain, we're next to the fountain. And it's this beautiful, sadly empty fountain that's sort of fallen into disrepair. And I don't think there's been water in it for many years, but that year of my first Shakespeare show, like it rained like crazy, and they were redoing the stage. It was the first year that they had those big light trusses and stuff, so it was like a big facelift, and we didn't get on the stage to rehearse the show until like Tech Week. And we actually rehearsed it up here in this area, and it was magical. Like it was pure magic. And I felt like we could have done that show anywhere. But anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. It just reminded me of it. But yeah, so then I finally got to do Shakespeare for the first time then, and it was awesome, and it felt right.
Okay. So you do some Shakespeare-adjacent shows in school, and you've always had an affinity for it. And then you audition and become a core company member at Gamut. And your first show, you said, is Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't core company then.
Okay.
I did shows on part-time for like a year or two, and then I became core company, but it doesn't matter.
Well, no, it does. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that we get your timeline correct.
But yeah, yep, I was, I did a bunch of shows for a couple years, and I was working, my day job was at Whitaker Center at the time. I was working in the Science Center doing like electricity demo shows and weird touring science things, which was really fun. And then the rest of the time I was working at Gamut basically. And then when there was a core company opening, and I think it was like the spring of 2006, and then I snagged it.
Okay. So, talk about some of your time as a core company member.
It was great. I met my husband, Robert, at that time. Well, I met him a little bit before we were or he was already core company, and then I joined him later, and so that was like a significant thing that happened out of that. And my day job at Gamut when I was core company was I was the public relations director, and that was like really great, and that is what I ended up sort of going towards as a career path after I left. So that skill was really valuable, and I'm super grateful to Gamut that they have that sort of artist manager model, because it not only gives you an opportunity to do a ton of shows, which you do, that's a huge part of it, but you also have this sort of marketable real world skill that you leave with, and that was really helpful to me. So I learned how to, I was updating, the website and doing all the publicity, and I really loved that part of it. And plus, all the shows obviously were great. I loved being a popcorn hat player. It was so much fun. And there's one thing that I always have treasured about Gamut, is that there's this level of trust that they have in you, as a popcorn app player specifically, is that there's a script and stuff, but you have the freedom to play and experiment, and there's a trust that you learn your character and you understand what you're doing, and that within those boundaries you can play. And so it allows for really funny children's theater shows that adults aren't gonna hate going to. And it's funny, having my own kid now, I was so used to going to children's theater that is funny, to adults too. We took Rosemary to this Daniel Tiger show, and it was great, and she loved it, and it was so magical for her. But I was just whew, this is a lot, and I was so not used to that. So it made me very grateful to Gamut that there's children's theater that's parent friendly in the area. So I loved doing that, and I loved getting to work with Robert during those times, and especially now, I really treasure that, because I don't know how we will ever be able to do a show together for the next 18 years. So we both sort of look back on that time fondly, because we sort of fell in love during Company of Wayward Saints and kind of started having feelings. So I always think about that. So I have Clark to thank for casting us opposite each other, I guess, back in the day.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, so A Company of Wayward Saints is a show that was that's on the list. What are some other Gamut shows, park shows, main stage shows, any specific popcorn hat shows that stick out for you?
Oh man, yeah. Company of Wayward Saints was super fun, and mainly the main reason I have the nostalgia for it is because of Robert. But then, it was also just really fun. It was my first experience with Commedia. So that was really exciting and challenging, and we when I was core company, we did Titus Andronicus, which was a blast and a challenge and a bloodbath and a lot of fun. And yeah, and I guess on the Popcorn Hut side, one of my favorite like all-time roles was Rumpelstiltskin in Rumpelstiltskin, the titular role. It was the best, most fun that I've ever had. And I don't know why, like there's like a fake beard and just playing this little weird old man. And that is one thing too. I think that's important to note. Like my first show at Gamut was Much Ado, and I was cast as Hero, and it was doubled with Vergis, this old guy that's like Dogberry's sidekick. And I remember thinking like, this isn't gonna work. How can you like one actor play two parts in the same play? It just didn't make sense to me. And that was like a really exciting challenge to like play this old guy. And it sort of allowed me to embrace my inner like goober, I guess, and just be weird and make big choices, because you have to when you're playing an old man and you're also playing like an ingenue, and that was fun. And I think that was a big thing I got out of Gamut, was like just that playing multiple roles stuff. There was like a bunch of times I played old men like a million times. It was, who knew, I never knew that would be something that would be part of my life, but it's always been fun. And
All right. So you have some of those roles while you're working at Gamut, but like you mentioned earlier, you've also worked with Open Stage.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how you get to Open Stage from working with Gamut.
My first show at Open Stage was back in 2004 in Proof.
Okay.
And I love that play. Is great. And I remember it was pretty new at the time that they did it. And I remember reading it and just loving it, and auditioned and wanted it hard. And I was so excited to do something there.
Yeah.
And I had a great experience. But then, because pretty much right after that, I became core company at Gamut, and so I wasn't able to do anything there. And just timing-wise, I did a couple Court Street cabarets, which are always a great time. And then this past fall, I did the Amish Project, which was in October. And that was my first return to Open Stage other than Court Street in over 10 years. And so that was cool. And that was actually my first time working with Dawn, because there was a guest director back when I did Proof. So I hadn't worked with Don Alsadek yet, so that was my first time working with him. An Amish Project, which was challenging and satisfying, and yeah.
Would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about the Amish Project and your role in it?
Sure. It's a sort of dramatized, semi-fictionalized retelling of the nickel mines shootings that happened in Lancaster County in 2006. And I played Carol, who is the fictionalized version of the shooter's wife. So in the play, you sort of see her experiencing all of the things that come along with finding out that your husband just murdered a bunch of Amish children. And so that was incredibly challenging. And we had some really incredible young actors in the show. Sushma Saha and Noel Soccer and, oh my gosh. This is another amazing little girl who I can picture in my head, and I forget her name, but I'm going to find out, because I feel like a jerk. But they were all awesome, and it was great, and really hard. And yeah, thankfully it was short. It was a short play.
Yeah.
So it was short and quick, and but it was one of the more challenging things that I've ever done. To, you know, and there was a lot to unpack there, because there's the question of like, what do you do when someone you love does something incomprehensible? How do you reconcile that? And how do you mourn for them? Because he died too.
Yeah.
And, you feel guilty for mourning, and you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And, I just think about that. And it was like a really interesting experience. And like going through it as a parent, even though I'm like a fairly new parent, it was really, really intense, but super satisfying, and I loved being part of it. And that's where I met Jeff Wazaleski, who is also in Merry Wives. He was in that as well. He was great too.
So, between Summer and Smoke and Much Ado and Rumpelstiltskin and Amish Project, you've mentioned a lot.
Sheridan Lane is the little girl.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. I love you, Sheridan. You're wonderful.
Good save.
Jeez. I could picture her beautiful little blonde face. Ugh, Sheridan. Sorry. Anyway.
No, you got it. But you've talked about the material that challenges you.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people that I've interviewed thus far, it seems to be a pattern that there's the want of that challenge.
Totally.
So when you get a role like Carol in the Amish Project, and like you said, you've recently had a child and you have all these things, and as you mentioned, you don't get to do as many shows. What what about that said this is the one?
I honestly, it's such like a stupid reason, but it was timing. And I saw Open Stage had posted a thing in their casting call group or whatever on Facebook that they were looking for this. They were looking for someone to play Carol, and I was like, I looked at the dates, and I was like, man, I think I could actually do this. And so I texted Robert real quick, and I was like, I think I want to email Dawn about this. And so it was really just sort of like, I'm just going to see, because it seemed interesting. It seemed like an interesting opportunity, and like if I could do it, I could do it. And like our schedules are so strange that I felt like I kind of had to jump at the chance if I could. And then it ended up working out. And yeah. So like the immediate reason I wanted to do it was sort of like, this is a show and I can do it and it sounds cool. And it definitely was all those things. And then it sort of, as I got into the process, like it was obviously like really a challenge too. But yeah.
Okay. So a challenge is something that you definitely look for. And you've talked about the sense of community. And obviously you feel very strongly about the theater community, having roped in a husband from it.
Yeah, it works.
So now you're back on stage again in Merry Wives of Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the scheduling issues and your love of Shakespeare and your love of the challenge, talk to me a bit about this show, because I am a cultural Shakespeareist, which is very to be or not to be, and he wrote the one about the woods at night a bunch of times, but I'm not super well versed, and so I'm excited about the play as someone who's excited about the theater and about your work and about all the people who are involved. But for the listeners, I was wondering if you could give a synopsis, rundown, intro thing. Not synopsis, don't spoil. No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give like a high-level overview.
Okay.
So it's Merry Wives of Windsor is set in Windsor, obviously. This little town, it's this very rustic kind of comedy. You saw the set. It's it looks like looks kind of like the old globe, like with the
Yeah,
whatever those brown
Cross
pieces of
cross
wood.
beams over the
Yeah.
white. Yeah.
So it's very much like this rustic comedy, and it centers on Mistress Ford and Mistress Page and their husbands and Falstaff. And I'm told that this play was sort of written because the people loved Falstaff so much in like the Henry 5 and 4, they just, well, he wasn't really in Henry 5, but Henry 4, and he was like a very popular character, and the people loved him, and so Shakespeare kind of wrote this as like, give the people what they want, and let's make Falstaff as ridiculous as possible, which he is. And so he's just sort of this fat, drunken oaf, and he steals things, and he's a lech, and he's gross, and the wives plot a bunch of times, many times, to just sort of make him look like an ass. And that's kind of what it is. That's sort of, it just happens over and over again. Like, oh, there, got him again. And it works every time, and he falls for it because the women sort of rope him in. And it works. And then the whole town kind of comes together at the end to get him one last time, all in good fun. But yeah, I mean, it's so much fun because it's broad comedy. We can go out there and like say our lines and know what we're saying, but the stakes are low. You know, this is not Hamlet.
Yeah.
So we're having fun, and not that you don't have fun doing those things, but it's different, you know, when you're just like laughing, and it's been a great time. It's kind of interesting too because it's the women are like the masterminds of this plot, these various plots against him. So that's kind of fun to be able to have the ladies be the devious ones.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, who do you play in the show?
I play Mistress Page.
Okay. And is there anything you'd like to tell us about Mistress Page?
Sure. Yeah, she really wants to get Falstaff good. And the reason that this all starts is because he sends them each of the wives the same letter saying like that he's in love with them, and so this really like angers them because they're married women and this is very inappropriate, and so they decide they're just gonna like lead him on and trick him into thinking that they're gonna go for it, and then like just make him look like an idiot. And they do it over and over again, as I said before. So she's sort of this like, she's very witty, she's smart, and I hate this phrase, but she's sort of like wears the pants. It's like the worst phrase, but it's the only thing I can think of. She's got a sharp tongue, and she's in control of her situation, which is interesting, you know, because this was written at a time when women didn't have a whole lot of autonomy, and they go for it and they sort of are the guides. So, but she's been super fun. It's been a blast playing her. And it's been great.
Nice. So, getting a chance to play Mistress Page? Mm-hmm. And then playing some of the other roles in the Shakespeare canon, I'm wondering, was this a role that you had read before and wanted to do, and was this a play that you had wanted to do?
I had read the play in college, just sort of in Shakespeare class, just as a class, you know, not very specifically. And then when I was in college, I went to URDAs, which are the United or Unified Regional Theater Auditions. It's like these cattle call auditions, but for grad schools.
Okay.
And I ended up not going to grad school, but I went to URDAs, and that was my first and only cattle call experience. And I did a Mistress Quickly monologue from Merry Wives
Okay.
for that. And that was really my only exposure to this play. I knew it was funny, I remembered vaguely the storyline. But when I saw that this was going to be the Park Show this year, it was exciting because I knew that I could do it. Not like that I could do it, like schedule-wise that I could do it. And that there is a chance that, there's some lady parts. The ladies don't get a lot of love in Shakespeare, so it's exciting it was exciting to think of the possibility of being able to have that opportunity. So, yeah, I was super excited about it. And comedies in the park are just great. It's perfect. It's like the perfect setting. And especially for a play like this that is like so rustic, and we're doing it like in Elizabethan period costumes, and so it's the only show that Gamut's ever done that way. They've done many other periods, but never Elizabethan. So like we have these beautiful costumes built that Jen Kylander did, many of them like from scratch.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's really cool. So now they'll have a good stock of Elizabethan stuff, but there's a lot of like new things. So yeah, and we're using dialects, which is fun. We have like British, which we'd never do, but it's a play about the town. It's a play about the setting in a lot of ways, and so Clark thought it was important that we sort of honor that. So that's been fun. I love accents, and so we're getting to do that. So yeah.
Awesome. So, if there were any roles that you could call dream roles, what would some of those be? And since you're someone who's touched upon doing musicals and comedies and dramas, I'm going to ask for at least one from each. But please don't feel free not to limit yourself.
Oh man.
And then, of course, the question that I've been tuned to asking by guests, so I won't do that. But if there's anything that you've possibly aged out of, because the reason I even reference this is because I saw an interview with John Cusack where he said he wept uncontrollably when he turned 19 because he looked in the mirror and found out he was going to be too old to play Holden Caulfield. It was just like one of those weird stories where it's just kind of like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's legit. That is a thing, though, and that, like, just realizing, because I'm in my mid-30s now, and I'm like, well, my Juliet days are over, and just reaching that, and not that I want that necessarily, but that is a significant thing, like, wow, I've like aged into a new bracket, and it's fun, playing, and there's jokes about how old we are in the show. And Tara, who plays Mistress Ford, Tara Herwig, who is amazing. We're both, in our 30s, and it's fun to get to like live in our actual, be in our age that we are, and so that's fun. But anyway, oh man, I don't know. Well, earlier I said I would love to revisit Summer and Smoke as an adult. I really would. So if anybody can make that happen,
This is the
that
place,
would be great.
This is
I'm
the place
just
to make
putting that
pleas.
out like into the universe. Man, I don't know. I'm sort of out of touch of like new musicals, but.
Well, I will say this. Alexis saw Hamilton.
Oh, I did see Hamilton.
Wasn't it still in previews?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was
so-
like a week before it actually opened, and it was so great. So other than that, I've very little experience with new musicals. But yeah, so that was super good. But yeah, I don't know. I should have prepared for this question. I should have thought about it.
It's all right.
Um,
I'll start tiptoeing you through
I
it.
would love to. I would love to do some more. I don't know. I would just love to do some more of everything. Honestly, like I don't know.
Are there any shows that you're like, okay, that show, anybody in it?
I don't know. I'm having one of those things where I'm like, I can't think of a single play.
Okay.
But there are lots of there is actually like I can't think of any like show that if I auditioned for it and was offered like any role that I wouldn't take it. Honestly, I
Okay.
feel like I would. And I mean, I'm saying that completely like out of context of really, I don't know, but I feel like I'm mostly up for anything, and I think that comes from just like I got to get it in where I can,
Okay.
and so I don't know.
Well, like, okay. So,
Oh, I thought of one.
Okay, quick.
So it's a musical, and I don't. I know that was just done around here was Next to Normal. I would love to do that.
Okay.
And I didn't really know anything about it. Last year or 2 years ago at Court Street Cabaret, Allison Graham sang a song from it, and I was like, "Huh, this is cool." And so I listened to the soundtrack and then read about it on Wikipedia, like you do when you need to do research.
Of course.
Serious research. And yeah, I would love to do that. I started taking voice lessons recently, which is something I haven't done in a really long time. I take voice lessons with David Glasgow.
Who you can hear on episode 2 of this podcast.
And that's been really fun to do. Hello. And and it's mostly like, it's fun to just sing for the sake of singing and not be like rehearsing for anything. So I feel like I would love to do more vocal stuff.
Okay.
In general, just singing.
So, getting a chance to sing more than the Court Street series, just...
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is, what that would be, but yeah, I used to before Stuart came to town and started doing the Court Street stuff, because I didn't really know I know cabarets were happening before that, but I wasn't really involved in any of them. Like, I remember being really sad because I felt like my only outlet to sing in public was like karaoke. I'm like, this is lame.
No.
So it's been nice for over the past couple of years to have that, to be able to sing, just sing. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, since you didn't come up with a bunch of rules, I'm going to start dragging you through
Okay.
just to see. So, is Lady M in Macbeth? Is that something you'd be like, yeah?
Oh God, like I feel it. Yes, I mean anybody would. It's just so good, so meaty. Yeah, there's a lot there. I got to play Tamara in Titus Andronicus, and she's sort of another one of those women that get a bad reputation, just for being conniving and horrible. And I think Lady M is the same way, but there's reasons. There's reasons that they make the decisions they make. And I guess that's our job as actors to like make them, to know those and make them real. But yeah, I mean, that's I feel like any woman that does this would never scoff at the idea of playing Lady M.
Now, it's funny you said about Titus Andronicus, and I don't know have I told you about this before?
I don't know.
Okay. That was the first show that I had as required viewing as a college student.
Oh.
So, college professor comes to us and says, Brenda Epley, who is also in the show,
Yeah.
she sits us down and goes, all right, you're going to be going to a show, and they know I have students coming. There's nudity in this show, and I'd like you all to behave yourselves no catcalling, no oohing and eyeing, just respectful. So me and about 4 or 5 other college guys, we're getting ready. We're like, all right, gonna go see the show. Gonna be probably some killing, probably some blood. Heard there's some nudity. So we're sitting there, and spoiler for Titus Andronicus.
400-year-old spoiler.
Jordan did the same thing with Chekhov, and it's such a weird thing where I feel like obligated not to spoil this. But this female character gets her hands cut off and her tongue cut out.
Yeah, it's not sexually nudity in any
So
way.
she runs out, and it looks like she has to say something, and she opens her mouth, and blood spills out. And we all are in shock, and afterwards we're in class, and she's like, so? And we're like, why did you tell us to behave? You should have warned us and said, call your mother and say you love her, But so whenever I think of that show, I think of that, and also the image of you eating a pie.
Oh, yes. A pie made of children, of my children. Yeah. Which actually, Karen Rook made that pie. She did the props, and
you can hear an interview with Karen Rook on the show
I pointed
as well.
at your phone because, she did the podcast too. But she made this pie, and it was so crazy because it was, lentils and grape jelly and, all this weird stuff to make it look like meat. But it also had to be able to, be used for multiple nights in a row.
Okay.
So it couldn't, be actual meat or whatever. It needed to look disgusting, which it did. And I still remember the taste of that pie, which was weirdly good.
Okay.
I remember telling Karen, I don't understand why, but I really enjoyed the boy pie. That was bizarre. And I have this crazy sense memory from that show with Dawn, because the fake blood that we made was made with Dawn and Caro syrup and food coloring and whatever, all this stuff. But that blue Dawn smell, every time I smell it. Oh, and peanut butter.
Yeah.
It's all it just takes me back to being covered from head to toe. We were literally sliding around on the stage. There was so much blood at the end. It was nuts. It was crazy, but fun and disturbing.
Is that a show and a role you'd like to revisit?
Oh, yes, definitely. I would love to. I loved it. I loved it. And that was a big challenge. It was this woman's doing some stuff. There's just this revenge plot. But she was conquered by this man, Titus Andronicus, and his army. They destroyed her village. They captured her. They bring her back to Rome with her children, and then they just drag one off him and kill him for no reason in the beginning of the play. And then she's like, well, shit. It's on.
Yeah.
And then, she surrendered. She was there. She did what they wanted, and it would have been fine, but they just had to, they started it.
Okay.
So, that was a cool challenge to just be no, this woman she's not just some villain.
Yeah.
Cackling. And I think it's the same with Lady M. Shit gets out of control for them, but there's reasons, and so I think it's important to remember that when considering these characters that seem so diabolical, that everybody's got a reason, no matter what it is,
Yeah.
It's good advice for life, I guess.
Hey, art imitates life imitates art. It's all in there. Okay, so we have a couple of Shakespeares. Are there any people from the, I want to say the contemporary canon, but in that I'm including anything by Eugene O'Neill, Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, and there are some answers that could sound generic or typical, but I feel that most of the time it's because they're really good.
Yeah.
So if you were like, oh, I want to play Blanche Dubois, or
I was just gonna, I would love to. I would love to play Amanda in Glass Menagerie when I'm a little older.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. I think, and that's again, like anybody would. There's reasons that these are like iconic characters. Yeah, I totally would. And again, I'm having one of those moments like, what are plays? Like, I can't think of any plays. I should have prepared, Jerry.
It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many things that I would love to do. And there's some Greek, like, I would love to do some Greek theater.
Okay.
I love Antigone. I've always loved it. I would love to do that. And we did one Greek play when I worked at Gamut Iphigenia at Aulis. And it's a not very well-known one, but I loved it. There's something really cool about these old stories, and especially with Shakespeare, that's like one of the things that I love about it, thinking about like the thousands and thousands of people that have said the same words over the years. And I love new things too, but I don't know.
Now, growing up, you said you were a Shakespeare fan. Were you a musical kid? A kid who liked musicals? Were there shows where...
I loved like all of the musicals that everyone loved like as a kid in the early 90s. So like Les Mis and all the cliche everything. I loved Les Mis so much as a child that like it's embarrassing to think about now. Like I'd look back and I'm like, ugh.
Hey,
yikes.
You missed Wicked.
I guess, yeah, that's true. So yeah, and like I loved like all the Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals as a kid, and like, but I think it was just the idea of storytelling and singing, and it was all these things that I was really excited about, and so yeah, I totally nerded out on some stuff back in the day.
So,
but then it stopped. Like, I just sort of fell out of. I stopped keeping up with it, and so there's this like 20-year span of musical theater that's happened that I just don't know.
You have some like stop-off points where you're like, I know some ragtime.
There's something, because I kind of missed Rent.
But you'd be really great in Rent.
Do they do Rent? Is Rent something that happens? It seems sort of, so I don't know. I loved it as a child, and.
So are there any roles that just, for nostalgia reasons, you're like, oh, well, time to get my Fontaine on. I'd love to do that.
Oh, totally. Although I always thought I was more of an Eponine than a Fontaine.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, that song, On My Own. I used to belt that hardcore in my room as a child. And my friend Bethany, growing up, like, she would play the piano and we would take turns, like, singing stuff. It was so cool. We were the coolest.
Yeah.
I love Jesus Christ Superstar, too. And I know you got to do that a couple years ago, and you were great. And that was so fun, because I'd never actually seen it live. I watched that 70s movie, like, a million times.
With Ted Neely and Carl Anderson? Yes.
Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
That's so bad, but so good at the same time.
Oh my God, I loved it so much, and it was so 70s.
Oh yeah,
it was such a snapshot of its time, and my mom loved it too. And I remember like, she still like listens to Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack sometimes. I think, but the music's really good. I loved it. That would be one I would love to do as an adult.
And that's one where I think you should be playing Judas.
Oh God, that would be amazing. That was like always one of my dream roles.
All right, we got one.
One, that's right. Thanks for reminding me about that thing I've always thought.
Okay, so I'm asking you about revisiting roles, but you said you did Sarah Brown. Is that something where you...
No, you know what? It was so... I loved doing that, but I cannot sing it. Like, they had to bring it down for me. Because she's super high. She sings super high. So they actually, like, transposed it when I was in high school a little bit. I could do a couple of the songs, but some of the really high, up in the rafters stuff, they brought down. So I think like in the real world, other than like at school, I probably could never ever play that. But so I was lucky that they were willing to do it back in the day.
Well, there's the other one, Adelaide.
Adelaide, yeah, but I don't dance. That's the thing. That's the crucial.
You could turn that into a park and bar. Just get the hot box honeys.
Yeah, like they'll do it.
Dance around
Just
me.
Stand there. I could do some little step touches. Yeah, that would be fun actually.
Is that something that genuinely keeps you?
Yes.
When you're thinking about musicals, you're like, I could do Gypsy, but I don't know if I could dance. Gypsy. I don't know if Gypsy's a dance show.
I don't know. I know nothing about it. But yeah, no, it has. It has. Because I'm terrified of a dance call. Because like I don't learn choreography quickly, so I can't just learn something and do it. I can learn it after many months, but it's just not something that comes naturally to me. So I look for like the real. I guess if I were trying to do a musical, I would look for like the real moody ones. You know.
So a lot of
standings.
Sondheim.
Yeah, the Sondheim stuff. That's the. Yeah, I would love to do Into the Woods, actually. It would be anyone. Anything that I could reasonably, like, any notes I could reasonably reach.
Okay.
I'd be into it. Baker's Wife would be killer, I think.
How good would that be out in the park?
That would be magic. Pure magic. Somebody should do that.
And I don't know if Tom listens, but I know Tom likes to claim that he's not a singer. But I want to see him do that, too.
He is a singer, no matter what he says. He's good. Can I just say quick about Merry Wives? Like everyone is so good in this cast.
Like praise.
Yeah, I mean, like Jeff is hilarious as Falstaff, Jeff Wasilewski. Just wait till you see how ridiculous he looks in his fat suit. It's crazy. And Preston is killing it as Master Ford. Brad, who plays Master Page, is super funny. Tom is Caius, this French doctor. It's like really a ridiculous role that is so funny. Michelle is super funny as Mistress Quickly. Really, like every single person is doing great things, and it's been a blast to work on. And we open tomorrow, and can't wait for people to see it. It was fun to have. We had some like guests at rehearsal the other night, and it was fun to hear people laughing and enjoying it. And yeah, lots of people from the neighborhood watch rehearsals too, which is super fun. Yeah. The other night there was a family of like 40 that were here just up on the hill, like a bunch of kids running around, and they were engaged and laughing. And so that's the kind of neat thing about just being in a public space and having it be open to the world. Just letting the world in. So that's been super fun about it. One of the things, but yeah, it's great.
That's wonderful.
It's hot.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Thank you. You brought me to as we start to wrap up here, because I know you have to get ready to actually go down and do the thing.
Yeah.
So I did one park show. I did Romeo and Juliet. And
yeah, you did.
If you ask, and I bitched and moaned. So your first time you're in Elizabethan garb, is that the full? Are you?
Yeah, I mean it's heavy fabric, and poor Jeff is really. I mean he's
suit.
Like wearing a couch, but there are ice packs inside it.
Okay.
Trade secret. Yeah, there are ice packs like in pockets that Jen sewed in to like keep him cool, and thank God, because he has all. And then on top of that, there's like his whole costume. Which he has, it's lighter than everyone else's. Like, he just sort of has a vest and a thing. But, yeah, it's a lot of clothes. Yeah, that's like a challenge about the park shows that you're outside, and so it is what it is. The rehearsal process, like, my trunk of my car, I have, like, my winter coat. Because it was a really cold May. Like, there were several nights where I was wearing, like, a parka and was, like, wrapped in a blanket, and then it would be 90 degrees. So there's this whole other element of the outdoors that's part of the experience, which is fun too in a way. But yeah, like it gets hot.
Yeah.
It does. So water is key. We're all super hydrated back there. But like last night, I drank like 5 bottles of water, like big, like Nalgene's, and like I didn't pee. So
Left
I
it all on
mean
the
that'll
stage.
tell you,
Yeah.
like it's crazy. But like I don't know, being outside and there's just something special. I'm kind of like a nature person anyway, and I enjoy being outside, and I feel strongly that everyone should be outside more. And so, but life gets in the way, and I work in an office, and so it's sort of been nice over these past couple weeks to have to be out here,
Yeah.
and being part of it all. So it's cool. A fox walked through the park the other night, which was cool, and there's a lot of wildlife here. You can hear birds, and there's some red-tailed hawks the other day, like circling around, and so yeah, it's been awesome.
You've heard it here first. Now you have an excuse because Alexis says people should be outside more.
Yeah.
So take a chance, get outside, and come see Merry Wives of Windsor at Shakespeare in the Park, which is at Reservoir Park in Harrisburg, opening tomorrow. Well, when this episode's posted, it'll be today.
Okay.
But June 3rd.
Yeah. And parking is free, admission is free. You can bring a canned good. We're collecting canned goods for Bethesda Mission.
Okay.
So, and then, we'll accept donations at the end, but this is free. It's for you.
So take advantage of it. Come on out and enjoy the show. Alexis, thank you so much for sitting down and talking.
Thank you so much. Sorry I didn't have like more thoughts, but I had a great time talking to you.
Me too, and it's all right. Now I have an excuse to kidnap you for another interview sometime.
All right.
Have a wonderful rehearsal, and I cannot wait to see you on stage break a leg.
Thanks.